Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Serving Nerve, where we talk about whatever we want, and today we're going to be talking about dancing for money. Also, hi, I'm back. How are you doing today? So today I kind of want to talk about dancing for money in adult clubs, particularly women dancing for money in adult clubs, because, I work for tips, I'm a server, and I know a lot of people who talk about doing this, so I figured we would go into TikTok, kind of check out some of the videos about chicks making fat stacks and giving men heart attacks, whether it's from them having to keep that pump from Viagra or having to, look at bootylicious ladies, I guess, for a consistent sum of time and throwing all of their, money on them, I guess. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about strippers. So my current perspective of being like an erotic dancer is a little bit biased because I was raised with a, family who was not pro, OF, was not, go out and dance for money and show off your body and get naked for crowds, don't strip. There's probably a better way you can make money, and money isn't worth it at that point. But I also work in an industry where a lot of people are willing to do this thing or have a history of doing this thing. And I also work for tips and kind of, compare it a little bit because at the end of the day, you're trying to entertain in some respect. You're trying to kind of, just make the crowd happy, whether you serve them food and drink or whether you show them off your body. Some people that I have served and some people that I've worked with who have served also have had to deal with similar things when it comes to specific clientele. But, when it comes to being an erotic dancer of sorts, I feel like it's kind of a different game. The money is either there or it's not, and sometimes these girls make a ton of money. Like, we're talking not just hundreds, but thousands of dollars in a night for a few hours of dancing. So today I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, go through some TikToks of girls, basically, talking about how much money they make, what it's like, and basically the whole spielio dealio of what it's like to start taking off your clothing for money. I want us to kind of go into some of the moral implications of this, but more so, it's not all fun and games. Like, I know a lot of people who have, talked about doing this, how they want to become, erotic dancers, take off your clothing for money because it's easy or it's something you can do, or also, just do OF, or, sell your body for money. A lot of people do it. It's a pretty, common thing, whether we want to put, like, fancy words around it or not. And other people have a complete bias towards it and obviously abscond the prospect because it's, it's a belittlement to the self in some capacity, at least from my perspective. So yeah, I figured we would just go into the videos today and see what TikTok particularly has to offer us in regards to women particularly showing themselves off for money and reaping the rewards. Also today, I figured let's have a nice bottle of wine, and when I mean a bottle, I mean hopefully just a glass of wine because, just saying, I didn't make any money at work today. I left like an hour after closing, or an hour after opening. Jeez, I can't even talk. I'm acting drunk before I even have the bottle. But anyways, I figured I would have some wine with you all today, and we would kind of just enjoy a nice French Pinot Noir that I can barely open. A French Pinot Noir on a lovely Tuesday while we go into what it's like to dance for money, because I feel like that'd be good. Honestly, like, this kind of stuff, I gotta tell you, I don't even look at it like it's that different from, like, going on to Instagram and showing your ass. Like, it really isn't. Like, you're doing the same kind of thing, and you're making money from it either way. So it's not like I look at these chicks any different from that of, like, an Instagram model who just takes off all her clothes anyways. So you know what? I'm gonna call that out before I even get into this. I don't think it's that different, and anybody can come for me and say it is, but I really don't think it is. Like, what's the difference between you showing your ass in, like, booty shorts and stuff, and you taking your clothes off at the club for money? I'm just saying. Alright, so now we're gonna get into this and see where this goes. So, this is the first video, and it is called Work a Saturday Night with Me at the Club. So yeah, let's just get into that.
Hi guys, it's Saturday night. I got to work around 10:30, 10:45ish. I got there a little bit earlier than I usually do just because I wanted to hustle more, make more money tonight. When I got there was not too much going on, but usually Saturday nights are a late start. I went on stage shortly after I checked in with DJ, and my first set was literally like $20. It was not that good at all. But once I came down, I did do like a lot of dances with guys, but they only did like 3 or 4 dances, nothing like too crazy. But then I started getting like really good tippers and people that were getting like 5+ dances at a time, so that adds up. And then I had one of the girls from the club come up to me and invite me over to her regular, and we ended up doing a room all together, which was obviously really nice, and she did not have to do that, but she went on her way to find me. And yeah, that was super fun. So we did that room, and after we came out, I think they did their own thing after that, so I left. And by this time, it was probably like 1 a.m. You know, I still had like 3 or 4 hours left of hustling left to do. So I knew I had the potential to make a lot more money during those hours, which I did because stage was so good for me tonight. After that first stage set, every other stage set that I did after that, I was making like at least $150 to $200 on stage. So that really helps a lot, you know? I love doing stage because when I do stage and I get a lot of money from it, I feel like it's kind of just free money just because I'm just there. The girls are just there, hot as hell, looking super sexy, and we're just getting thrown money. The clientele tonight in general was really good. Each guy that I went back to the dance room with, he would spend at least $100, $150, even $200 on me every time I went back. I was pretty tired by like 4 a.m. and I did want to leave, but I knew there was still like a lot of money left to be made, like in the last hour. We call it rush hour. And honestly, I think I made like maybe 400 in that rush hour that was left. Just because last minute, like guys are like, oh my god, they're gonna close. Like we need to get dances, we need to do this, we need to spend money. Like we need to get rid of the money that's left that they took out from the ATM. So I did end up staying till closing. I think I left the club pretty late today, probably like 5:45 a.m. So I definitely had a really good night, and I definitely needed this just because Thursday was really bad for me. So today made up for Thursday. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
So it does really seem to be like a variable kind of income stream, but every time I hear girls on TikTok talking about this, it's always like, I made $2,000, and if you add this up, it's probably going to be at least $1,000, I'd assume, like from what this girl's talking about. $1,000 in a Saturday night is pretty hot. I think from serving, the most I've ever made serving, and this was only one time, and this was before tip out and tax and whatever. The most I'd ever made in one night was, I think, like almost $1,400, and that was with one $1,000 tip that some random dude decided to give me for no reason. So you know what, when I look at this, I'm like, man, that sounds pretty good. The money sounds pretty good, and I can't hate on it because it's like, yeah, all these girls are young, pretty, they can do what they want, and it is what it is. I just feel like either it's going to be a short-term thing, probably like serving is. Anything that you're working for when it comes to tips is probably going to be a short-term thing. But also, I feel like there's a level of objectification that comes with you dancing with men, taking off your clothes, showing off your body. And I know that's my own internal bias coming there. I find it really interesting that these girls are putting this information online. But the other thing is, you know, showing your money online, and I really wonder how this works on a tax regard. Like, I wonder if these girls report their tips or if they don't. Because most places like restaurants now, everything is like digital. You don't have to really report tips outside of your, you know, payroll, because most of your tips, if not all of your tips, are going to be pushed through a system and taxed already and, you know, properly deducted. And then you just report your total income at the end of the year. But with this, you're just getting handfuls of cash from ones to tens to hundreds, you know, whatever. So I really wonder if these people report it or they just, you know, they don't know, you know, they do whatever, or they have somebody else report it or something like that, or count it. It's really interesting. I'm not trying to say that they're doing anything wrong, all right, IRS. I'm just saying I find it interesting and I wonder how that works. I'm going to assume it's an end of the year thing.
Come to work with me as we enter the summer on a Saturday. It started off pretty good with the dance, then we went on stage. Stage wasn't too bad either, but it did slow down for a while. Then we went on our stage again and decided to work the floor a little bit more, but it was fairly slow, so we called it a night kind of early.
All right, so the total they say is $755, and again, for a night, like, it's good money. It's good money, dude. I still don't know if I would be okay with, like, showing off this much skin, if not more, for money. I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time kind of processing that.
Okay, so whenever I do videos about how much I make as a stripper, I always get comments like this, and I just wanted to list a few reasons why most strippers don't make the money that I make on TikTok, because I never want these videos to come off like you're just going to join the industry tomorrow and make the kind of money I'm making. I also don't want to, like, my videos to persuade younger women to just, like, jump into the industry because they feel like this kind of money is, like, what everyone is making, because everyone is certainly not making this kind of money. So I feel like the first thing I need to point out is obviously I have privilege as a white woman. I speak English. I'm from the United States. I have the typical blonde hair, blue eyes look. I'm skinny, white. Those are all privileges in the sex work industry because typically men, as fucked up as it is, are willing to pay more money for that type of look, for the skinny, white, blonde hair, blue eyes. That is typically one of the more desirable looks in the industry. And although I don't agree with that, and I think all women are beautiful, all women are all women are priceless no matter what you look like, that's just the reality of the industry. I do have privilege in the way that I was born, right? And then the second thing that I want to talk about is the fact that I live and work in Miami, Florida. I work at the biggest strip club in Miami and one of the biggest strip clubs in the United States and in the entire world. So obviously that attracts a ton of customers, a lot of really wealthy customers. Even if it's not the wealthiest customers, there's always a lot of traffic in my club just based off of the notoriety that it has, I guess, and based off rappers rapping about it, all this kind of stuff. So obviously I'm making more money because of my location as well. Obviously, girls working at a small club in Ohio, a small club in Boston, are probably not pulling in the numbers that I'm pulling in because literally just the location itself. Miami has tons of millionaires, tons of billionaires, people flying in from New York, people who have second, third, fourth homes in Miami, whatever. That's very common here. The money here is insane.
100%. It's the same thing with serving, in my opinion, or anything that's tip-based. Depending on the location, the busyness of your restaurant, your club, your bar, you're going to make way more money. And being hot matters, all right? If you're hot, especially if you're like some skinny white chick with blonde hair and blue eyes, you will definitely attract more gentlemen than, I wouldn't call them gentlemen, but you know what I mean. You're going to attract more dudes that are willing to throw fat stacks at you because it's hot. You know, they all have like an ideal, like what they want. And the stereotypical would probably be like blonde hair, blue eyes, skinny or perfectly proportioned woman. It's not to belittle anybody else, but at the end of the day, this is a looks kind of game. It's looking good and dancing and, taking off whatever you got or wearing provocative clothing. So if you're not as sexy, you might not get tipped as much. Yeah, your location does matter. This is the same thing with like being a server or a bartender or, working anywhere for tips. Foot traffic matters and clientele matters. I've served in places that are in the middle of nowhere in Virginia and you get paid $5 an hour plus maybe $20 in tips, $30 in tips, maybe $50 in tips if it's busy. Everybody throws a couple ones on the table. Doesn't matter what the bill is. Could be $100. They'll throw you a couple ones. They really don't care in certain areas. They don't care about tipping culture. They don't care about the whole 20% rule or specific percentages with bars and restaurants and things like that. It's all up in the air. But then if you go to a richer area in Fort Worth or Dallas or Houston, or you go to Miami, Florida, or you're in LA or something like that, you're in New York, the money is way more just there from the foot traffic. You could have the worst clientele ever. I've been working at places that stiff you on every fifth table, and you still just make a ton of money because you happen to have enough volume to compensate for the amount of money you won't make from people who just don't care to tip, or the amount of people that come in. It's enough. That's the thing I need to point out here is location in almost every capacity when it comes to a restaurant, a bar, a club, a business, a place that's operating on people getting food, drink, looking at chicks, throwing tips. Your foot traffic matters. The amount of people that come in matters. So that is going to be a big variable in what makes or breaks you in regards to your financial income.
The money people blow here is insane. You see these rappers, these athletes coming to Miami blowing all kinds of crazy money. That is very typical for Miami. It's not uncommon to be at my club and have some guy pull up and, spend $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 in a night. That's not uncommon, right? If you're working at a small club in Ohio or bumfuck Massachusetts, that's not as common. I think another thing I want to touch on is I'm working 5 or 6 days a week. I work 5 or 6 days a week every single week, and I've been doing that since December 30th, since I landed back in Miami from the holidays. I've been doing 5 or 6 day weeks every single week. So it's not like I'm just going to the club like once a week and pulling in $700,000 a year. Like that is not absolutely not how that works at all. And you know, some dancers only dance part-time. They do it on top of their full-time job. They can only dance, you know, twice a month or whatever. Or they travel dance 1 week out of the month. So obviously girls that are working 4 nights out of the month are not going to be making $700,000 a year compared to the girls that are working 5-6 nights out of the week every single week for months on end. Obviously the numbers are going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, the other thing I need to point out here is, like, you're going to have your good and bad days. Some days are going to be really good. Like, I'm assuming it's very similar, you know, as a server, where, you know, your Thursdays, your Fridays, your Saturdays, that's when people really go out. And then if you're working, like, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe your place isn't as busy as, like, a really busy club in like Florida or Miami, you might have to deal with the concept of working dead hours and not making anything, and then having it balance out by you making fat stacks on other days, and you just have to live with that. A good example, today I made $0, all right, unless you want to count the $2.13 that's eaten up by taxes. I went into my place, opened the shop, left. Okay, because we were just too slow and I didn't want to be there. I mainly just didn't want to be there. And you know, like, my managers, they're cool with that kind of thing sometimes. Like why would I make servers stay and make all of my staff miserable by me having them all, like, have to split, like, 2 tables each or something like that? But then if I make, like, $500 on a Saturday and I split it all up, it ends up becoming, like, a pretty average, you know, income. But even so, like, the amount of money these people are making is, like, so beyond my comprehension. Like, I don't think I've ever made more than, like, $50K in a year. Like, this is just crazy. So I wonder what even on their dead days they're making. Like, if you make, like, you know, even on a Monday, like, thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars, that's crazy. Because for me, like, you know, there are days, no matter how busy my restaurant is, that I'm just not going to make that money. And there are tons of other places I've worked where you don't make jack on a Monday, you don't make jack on a Tuesday, you don't make jack on a Wednesday. You're just there trying to wait until Friday, basically, and, like, you hope it works out, you hope you get tipped, and the paranoia kind of builds and builds and builds. And then, you know, it just gets worse and worse, basically. It's a really difficult job to deal with unless the money is really consistent. Like, serving, bartending, I feel like outside of the, you know, outliers where these really, really high-end clubs will have you, you know, being a night dancer or whatever, working at a club, I feel like it all does get to a point where it's like you're basically just sailing the seas unless you've got a good place you're working at. And it's the same thing with restaurants. Like, if you're really, like, at a really fine dining, high-end restaurant, you can sustain yourself really well. If you're not, then it's kind of one of those cases where you are just trying to cope.
And the last thing I want to say is I feel like there's a very big difference between dancers who do dancing as, like, a little side hustle. They do it for, you know, some extra pocket change. They do it for fun, whatever. And then dancers who, like, this is their lifestyle. This is their business. And everything about their life, their lifestyle, their gym routine, their diet, the media they consume, the books they read, all this stuff is tailored to being better at their job. And basically what I mean by that is there are girls who basically just kind of, like, do stripping for fun or a little extra pocket change, and they just really like having a job where it's, like, a flexible schedule and you can show up and take a couple shots, make a couple $100 and go home, and, like, it's a very easy, you know, chill job and you can make some, you know, extra change. And then there's those of us who are like, this is my life, my lifestyle, this is, like, my 9-to-5 job. This is what I am completely focused on and dialed in on right now. And that's one of the dancers that I am. Like, what I mean by that is my entire lifestyle, my daily routine, everything, all the media I consume is basically, how can I get better at my job?
Fuck the ring light. It fucking sucks. Anyways, 100% I agree. I have to point this out. You know, when I think about it, it's the same thing as, like, modeling. It's very similar, except you have to also be really good at dancing. You can't just pose like a model would. You have to be really good at, like, dancing, moving your body, knowing all of the motions, how to be, you know, enticing to the masses, I guess. But at the same time, you have to maintain, like, you know, a lean body weight. You probably have to diet. You also probably have to stay awake for long hours. You have to make sure your makeup's on point, that you have good facial features. I'm sure the pressure for modifications of the body is incredibly high. You also have to make sure that you have the skills to dance or move your body in specific ways. So maybe that's what you're reading about. Maybe you're also reading other things, whatever. But at the end of the day, the amount of time that would go into prepping for this kind of thing, if you were to treat it like an absolute profession, is immense. So it's not just like a little game. Like, this is not like a game where people are like, oh, let me just go to the club. I'll shake my booty, make up $100, whatever. This is like a serious thing for specific people. So it is really interesting because I feel like it's the same thing with OF. There are some people who really, really take it to heart. Really try to like make it work for them. I'm sure some people still don't make money even if they treat it like an absolute profession, but with the right work, especially in specific locations, not just online, you really can make a lot of money if you play your hand correctly. The same thing as serving and bartending, depending on where you work and how much time you're willing to learn cocktails and food and wine and learn prep and learn how to explain things properly to guests and how to get good service to guests, how to do silent service, how to be a very efficient server, all these things. It just piles up and up. If you learn how to kind of operate on your own or be very proficient with what you do, you can, again, make a lot more money. So this is the other thing. It's like this girl's taking it seriously. So she makes great money because also she's putting that time and effort into it. I feel like a lot of people I know kind of treat it like it's kind of like just an easy option, or it's a way to make a lot more money for a lot less work. When in reality, if you really want to climb the ranks, you still have to work hard. So I don't know. I find it interesting. I've talked to a lot of people who are like, yeah, I should just become, a stripper. I should just get on OnlyFans. I should, just basically, do whatever for money. I'll just sell my body for money, work the back alley. Point being made, it's a lot more complex, I think, if you really want to make that money than people are like making it out to be, where it's like, yeah, just dancing or just taking your clothes off. Now, saying that, this is still a practice that basically just feeds into the primitive minds of men and horny dudes and, whatever, people who want to blow money at the club. So that's another interesting thing, is as much as you attribute value to this thing, most people probably will look at this like it's a dirty gig just because it involves like indecent things in some capacity, or it's what people would deem indecent behavior for money. So I don't know, it's interesting. I think the moral argument is there, but I also think that the amount of work that goes into this is definitely no like walk in the park.
More money? How can I make more sales? How can I, break more customers basically? And that's with everything, right? Like, I'm in the gym 5-6 days a week. I'm eating healthy 5-6 days a week. I'm limiting the alcohol I consume as much as possible so that I look as good as possible. I'm doing my skincare every single day so my skin looks as good as possible. I'm finding the best eyelash tech. I'm finding the best nail tech. All this stuff so that I can look as good as possible and as marketable as possible at my club. I want customers to look at me, and without me even having to open my mouth, I want them to look at me and be like, her. I want to spend my money on her. And then on top of that, all the media I consume, is about, it's podcasts about how to sell, how to negotiate, books about how to sell, how to negotiate, the art of seduction, the art of power, the art of negotiation, all of this stuff. Everything in stripping revolves around sales. How are you going to lead a customer into making a sale? And so the media I consume is about that. And it sounds ridiculous, but that has helped me get so much better at my job and has helped me make so much more money. And that's what I mean between, there's certain girls who like take the job seriously and learn these little ins and outs and the psychology behind sales and stripping and how it all relates. And then there's girls who just, come into the club, look cute, take a couple shots, go home. And I'm not hating on them. Like, that's a chill way to do the job too. But I'm just saying, like, those of us who really take time to learn the industry and learn these tips and tricks and the psychology behind all of it are a lot more successful than the girls that don't.
See, that's the other thing here, is it's like, if you've never worked in sales, or if you've never worked for tips before, then you're kind of gonna look at this like it's like weird, especially with the extra like layer. And I've never been a stripper. Like, I have no idea what goes into this and making sales and whatnot. But if you've ever been in sales, like in any capacity, you're going to have to learn how to kind of like sell someone on something, an idea, a wine, a drink, a food, an act, an item, a prospect, or whatever. And however this girl does it, I have no idea how. I don't know how you like sell things or make sales. I'm guessing it's just get people enticed towards your being and then to do dances, and then you get them to do more stuff with you, I guess, and then you make more money through that. Maybe that's it. But either way, like, the amount of work that would go into this is significant. And if you make sales, then it's definitely going to be a case where you have to learn, like, how to make a sale, how to, negotiate, how to get somebody, involved with whatever you're involved with, how to actually, like, entice somebody into what you want them to be enticed into, and how to, like, push them a little bit further every time so that you can make more and more money. It's really interesting. And, like, the moral element of it, to me, I find the most difficult to get around, but the system itself would be probably pretty simple to learn, depending on location. That's the other thing. Depending on where you're working, would it be worth it? It's the same kind of thing, kind of, to me. Like, from jumping restaurant to restaurant and, working different places and finding ways to sell to people and, like, convince people of certain things, or, sell people on dishes or wine or food or really whatever, and kind of get people involved in that neck of the woods, and then sell people on my service or, my ability to converse with them, whatever it is, give them information, on dishes or whatever. I know it sounds stupid, but when you go from place to place, like, there are some places where the money is not worth what you're doing and you feel way more objectified than at other places. So if this is a good gig, then I can see why it would be more justifiable than to do the stereotypical working, like, at the middle of nowhere strip club or whatever, and you feel objectified, because at a certain point, I'm pretty sure the money kind of helps loosen those, those cogs, or, I don't know, grease the wheels, I guess, to get you to do really anything for money. I assume everything is basically fueled by money. So, if you're not making what you want to make, then you'd probably not be inclined to do this kind of thing. But it's just interesting in general.
Okay, the last thing I thought of as well is the club I've been working at for like 2.5 years, and I've networked with a lot of the floor hosts and people who can get me connected with high-paying customers. So I've networked within the club, which I feel like a lot of girls don't do. Like, basically how it works is if you work with the floor host, a manager, whoever, and they connect you with a customer that spends money, you're supposed to tip that person as common courtesy, either a percentage or a flat rate fee or whatever. So over time of working at my club, obviously I've networked with these people and they've introduced me to high-paying customers, and obviously, I give them a portion of my sales and I tip them appropriately for helping me out, which is fine. But I feel like a lot of girls don't utilize, like, the network within the club. And this is what I mean when it comes to girls who really try to, like, optimize this as a business versus girls who don't. Like, a lot of girls don't want to work with floor hosts. They don't want to work with people within the club because they don't want to give away a cut of their sales, or they don't want to tip someone or whatever. But these people can help you. Like, help them help you. That's it.
Yeah, so you're treating it like a hustle, basically. And this is something that I've also experienced at restaurants. You've got back-of-house staff. I know a lot of people who will give them $20. Hey, help me reset my table faster, or whatever. Get this thing for me, bring it to me, faster. I just want these things faster. More water to my table faster. Focus on my section more. And I've seen people use that tactic. And I've also seen people kind of, like, buddy up to hosts, managers, whatever. Sometimes, if not entirely, it will backfire in your face from the places that I have seen it used most. But tipping out specific members of staff is definitely necessary for you to get them to prioritize you, because at the end of the day, you're their money, you're their income stream. They value you more than, say, somebody who doesn't really do so. Which is interesting. What do you guys think of all this? I have to ask, my personal opinion and bias makes me go, like, wouldn't want to be, like, involved with dancing at clubs for money. But I know a lot of people who are into it, and I know a lot of people who've done it before, and or a significant sum, I guess, in my mind, of people who've done it before. I just think it's easy to objectify yourself or look at money like it's the end-all be-all, and then you're just using your body and stuff for money. And that's kind of where I feel like, since I was raised to think that's bad, that it's bad, and it's gonna, eventually, abuse you. Like, even now, yeah, you're hot, you're young, you're pretty, you're gonna make your fat stacks, and the smart people would save up that money so that they can kind of, proceed with something else in a later, career. Even so, I just think there are some implications societally, morally. And is it a financial benefit? For a lot of these girls, I'm sure it is. especially if you're making a lot of money at a high-end club or you've got like specific connections or something like that. But if you're not really making that much money, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot by doing it. That's at least my perspective. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing to be working in clubs, taking off your clothes for money, doing this whole dealio? Do you think it's, individualized and specific? Do you think it's like a terrible industry? I think it's sort of objectifying for guys to be throwing money at you, for getting to look at your body and whatnot. But that's just my opinion. I mean, a lot of girls would probably treat this like, I don't know, like it's some sort of empowerment. So you could probably flip it on its head right there. But yeah, that's just my opinion. So tell me what you think in the comments below, and I will see you all next time, my people. It has been lovely. Slater.